behalf of the Norristown Initiative, I'm Councilwoman Olivia Brady with Councilwoman Rochelle Colbert. Councilwoman Rochelle Colbert, I'm Olivia Brady. And we are here to welcome you to the Hispanic Forum for the Norristown Initiative. And we would also like to present Senor Prado and Councilman Ortiz with welcome bags from the Norristown Initiative. Thank you. Enjoy the forum.
Good morning. I want to welcome everyone to the ongoing series of the Norristown Initiative's Leadership Forums, brought to you today by the Civic Life Committee. Today's subject is the Hispanic residents of Norristown, past, present, and future. Before we start, I want to let everyone know that we will not be having a December forum. Our next scheduled forum will be January 18 in the year 2003, and it will be held at the Montgomery County Norristown Library. And the subject matter will be the review of the proposed demolition and renovation of the 100 block of West Elm and adjacent Wayne Avenue here in Norristown. Before we get going, I'd also like to give some recognition to those individuals who have been instrumental to putting together our panel today. We have Mary Ellen DiGregorio. She has done most of the legwork of making the initial contacts and follow-ups of all our panelists. Also, Councilwoman Rochelle Griffin Colbreth, who allowed us to drop her name when contacting Councilman Angel Ortiz of Philadelphia to remind him that she used to work with his wife. Also, Obed Ngueda, a member of the Norristown Initiative Board, who I am proud to say I was his sponsor. He got us in touch with the Mexican consulate and has supplied us with the food that we have here today. And last, and certainly not least, the indomitable Hank the Rock Cisco. He recommended Father Murphy, Chief Inspector Melendez, and Julio Alvarez and Anna Hudson of our panel today. And also, I want to give special recognition to someone who is not on our panel today, but is of Mexican heritage herself, Councilwoman Olivia Brady. I believe we have in the audience also today past President of Council, Joe Epifanio. And that's it. And all you. Okay, now about our forum today. We are witnessing firsthand a major change in Norristown that has commenced only within the last 5 years. It is a magnitude that will likely surpass the largest immigration that Norristown has ever known. The closest to this would be the Italian immigration of the early 1900s, to which there has been credited many similarities. We are witnessing the migrations of vast numbers of Mexican community to our town, the majority coming from one city, Puebla, Mexico. In 2000, the census for Norristown estimated we had a population of approximately 30,000 with a 10% Hispanic population. Most observers believe that this number of Hispanics is vastly underestimated, and we presently have between 6,000 and 7,000 here and growing daily. Like most immigrants of the past, they have come here to work and for many to make a new life. They generally have an appearance of hardworking, religious, family-oriented people. They are employed in our restaurants, construction, landscaping, factories, hotels, and the surrounding areas of Norristown. Norristown, with its inexpensive housing stock in the center of one of the richest communities, is a likely suitor to this group. As with most migration patterns of the past, we first noticed the presence of their young men. We are now watching the followings of the women and the children. With the growth pattern that it is estimated that between the years 2005 and 2010, Norristown's population will be primarily Mexican. With children being born here as Mexican citizens, it is not unlikely that within 25 years, we will have our first generation of full-blooded American-Mexican council people. Within 35 years, an American-Mexican mayor is just as likely. Just like in the 50s and 60s, in the 1900s, when Norristown was known as a predominantly Italian heritage town, in the 30s and 40s of the future, the 2000s, Norristown would be known as a Mexican town. Today we have a predominantly Hispanic panel. We hope they can show us through their mind's eyes and their background and experiences what we can see in the future and what we are experiencing now in a little more depth based on their own backgrounds. We have with us today Philadelphia panelists who have already seen the Hispanic metamorphosis in their city and hopefully will share that experience with us. I've heard comparisons to Mexicans' migration here as a literal wave of people. A thought for our own community. You can be crushed by a wave if you stand in front of it, or you can ride that wave to wherever it'll take you. That is our community's choice to make today. Personally, I believe that they will be one of the guaranteed solid things that Norristown can count on for the help in its revitalization. Now, before I get into introducing you to our panelists, we have some basic rules. For the first hour, we are going to have an introduction by each of the panelists who will introduce themselves, give us a little bit about their background, and maybe a little bit of the views of what they see happening now and what we can expect in the future. After that, we'll take a short break. Hopefully, we'll go through that within the first hour. 5-10-minute break. After that, there will be question and answer period. There will be one question per person, and if we do have time, and I'm told we have a 2.5-hour tape today. By the way, for those of you who don't know, we are being taped, and this will be on cable channel 3. There will be a question and answer period that can have, if the time allows, 2 questions. Doris, I see you up there already, thinking up your second and third. Now stop that. Okay, now for our panelists. I may need a little help here because the cards are facing the other direction. Okay, at the far end we have Miguel Donez of the Conexiones group. Next to him is Julio Alvarez of the First Union Bank. Next to him is that Lieutenant or Inspector? Inspector. Inspector. Jose Melendez. Next to him is Father Kennedy of St. Pat's Church. Next to him is Councilman Angel Ortiz from Philadelphia. Next to him is Obed Ngueda. Next to him, Adamino Ortiz. Next to him is Jacob Prado, and he is from the Mexican Consulate. And Anna Hudson from the Norristown Area School. She is liaison for the
Community Liaison Specialist.
What she said.
Whatever she said.
Okay, for introductions now, I'm going to go left to right. So Anna, the mic is now yours.
Oh, yeah. Good morning, everyone. I work for the Norristown School District. I am a community liaison specialist. Have a welcoming center in my school. My school is Godworth. I also teach English as a second language. In the past, let's say 10 years, the Mexican population has grown so much that the schools are ripping apart at their edges. And we are trying our best to educate all these children. We are doing wonderful things with them. Every elementary school now has an ESL teacher and some assistants. And there is teachers in the middle school and teachers at the high school level. So many of our children come to Norristown with no schooling whatsoever. As Gary said, they come from Puebla, they come from other states in Mexico where schooling is not appropriate, or they can go to school for whatever reasons, economical reasons mainly, since they have to go to work. And so as a result, when they come here with their parents looking for a better life, they have no schooling. So the situation is with English as a second language. We can teach them English, all right, but we have to start with many of them by teaching them just basic alphabet, the days of the week, with so many regardless of age. I work in an elementary school, and I've seen children coming to 4th and 5th grade with no math skills. So basically, the school is trying, as I said, doing the best we can. It costs to educate these children, our children, costs 1.5 the time, the money that a regular education student receives. And the reason for that is obvious. We need more teachers, we need more classrooms, we need more materials. There is a lot of requirements from Harrisburg, from the state, as to how to educate them, and it's the law. We cannot say no to anybody, nobody. Everybody is welcome into the schools. They get also, because of their economical status, they get a free lunch, free breakfast. We are providing for them morning programs, early morning programs, and after school programs. And you should see the little ones, the 1st and 2nd graders coming to school at 8, the program starts at 8 o'clock from 8 to 8:45, and some of them walk. And you should see them in the morning, just titiritando, and ready to learn. They are wonderful. We are very happy to have these children in our schools. Every principal that has these children is very happy. In fact, when they divided all these students into all of the elementary schools, some of the schools lost a little of the population. The principals weren't happy. They said, "Where are all my ESL children?" Everybody loves us. And we are very grateful for that. I don't know what else to tell you, but we are doing a very, very good job teaching them and reaching their families. My job as a community liaison is reaching the families, is talking to everybody. We have, in cooperation with the nurses, in cooperation with the counselors, in cooperation with the whole staff of every school, we are reaching their needs, or at least trying to reach their needs. But by talking to the families and educating the parents as to what their rights and responsibilities are by having their children in the schools, we are getting great success in involving everybody that should be involved with the children's education. And now I'm very proud, I'm very happy that I am here talking to you, because as a community, and everybody is involved, and everybody is interested in helping, we can do it. We can do a wonderful job. And so this generation of children, the newcomers, of course they are struggling. The new generation, these children's children, are going to be our future citizens, and we have that great responsibility of making them great, great citizens for here for Norristown. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Anna. Now we'll hear from Jacob Prado. He is the Deputy Mexican Consulate.
Thank you. Good morning. I'm very glad to be here to share some of the ideas that the Mexican government has regarding the Mexican population in the United States, and in particular in this area, in Pennsylvania, Norristown. Most of the Mexicans coming to the United States are the best Mexicans that our country can produce. They are here looking for an opportunity that they were not able to obtain or to gain in Mexico. But they are very hard-working people that are just looking for a better way of life. The problem is that not all of them have papers. Most of them are undocumented. Most of the people living here, we were talking about probably 5,000 Mexicans in this area, in Norristown, are what they are called here illegal aliens. For us, they are undocumented Mexicans trying to build a better way of life. The problem is that being undocumented causes them not to have the same opportunities that everybody else have in this country. And a lot of problems result from this main problem. In this area, we know that there are problems in education, as was mentioned before. We know that there is a lot of problems in housing. Most of the people, as was said minutes ago, are young Mexicans. They come without their families at this point, and they are going to live in one house, a lot of them, probably, I don't know, 10, 12, and landlords are taking advantage of their needs. We know that they are renting houses that don't have any kind of services sometimes. There are problems with security. Being undocumented is a problem because you cannot even open a bank account. So you have your money in your house, or you bring it with you all the time. So we know that there is a security problem also. We know that there have been a lot of robberies to the Mexican citizens. And these are just some of the problems that I know that exist in this area. We need to obtain cooperation with the local authorities, with the cooperation of the community institutions, banks, the cooperation of the community organizations that may help this community that is growing and is going to be here for a long time. They are now coming young Mexicans by themselves, but they will start bringing their families in the coming future. And then, as it was said, probably in, I don't know, 10, 15 years, this will be a Mexican-American town. The Mexican government is trying to help the local communities to deal with these problems. We want to be a partner in resolving these issues. Taking into account what happened September the 11th last year, we, for example, designed a program to issue a new consular identification. What is a matrícula consular, as we call it in Spanish. This matrícula consular has a lot of different security features that will allow the authorities to use it as a primary identification document for providing services to the Mexican community. Mexicans are undocumented not only because they don't have a visa, but sometimes because they don't have a proper identification. And if they don't have a proper identification, they are not able to receive services. So this project is very important. We have been negotiating with different banks also for them to accept the matricula consular as a primary identification document to open accounts. So the security problem that I mentioned before. We have been successful with Fleet already in this area and with First Union. There is a representative here. They are going to start opening accounts using the matricula consular next Monday. That's something that I'm very happy about, and I am very thankful to First Union. So this is one step that we are taking. Education. The Mexican government provides a lot of different services to the Mexican community in terms of education, the Mexican community in the United States in terms of education. This week we opened 6 community plazas, as we call them. These community plazas are like a school, little school, a small school with computers that are hooked through the internet to the Office of Adult Education in Mexico. So adults can go to that school, attend to classes, and start from literacy courses to obtain elementary education, an elementary diploma, and a junior high diploma. We are trying to also include English as a second language in that community plazas. And although there is no community plaza here, if we can start this project with some educational institutions with the support of the city, we can build one here. This is important because this will empower the Mexican community to gain education, but to gain also a better place in this community, and to help the development of Norristown in a much better position. So the future of this community is going to be the result of what we do today. And the Mexican government is a partner of all the community organizations, the government of Norristown, to do something right now, solve the problems that we are facing right now. There is a lot of programs that we can talk about, and probably during the second session, we can discuss some of them. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Now we're going to hear from Adamino Ortiz of Oklahoma.
Good morning. I'd like to recognize a member of my board, Mr. Joe Rodriguez, who is here present. I am the Executive Director of ACLAMO. ACLAMO is a multi-service community-based organization providing services for low-income families in Montgomery County with a special emphasis on the Latino community. We have office in Norristown and Passtown, where we serve the community. The presence of the Hispanic community in the Norristown area began in the mid-50s, when various families from Puerto Rico moved to the borough of Norristown. Following that, other families from Santo Domingo and some Cuban in the early 60s. By 1975, there was about 300 Hispanic living in Norristown. In 1976, in the 200th anniversary of this great republic, Aclamo was formed as a civic organization. Later, in 1977, that civic organization launched the Aclamo Agency to address the need of the Hispanic community in Montgomery County. Later in 1980, the first group of Cuban refugees came to Norristown. And I don't know how many of you know that this caused distress among many Anglos in the community. And there was, the borough was finding the agency that brought them to Norristown because they was having a social service agency near the neighborhood, and the community was up in arms, and the borough was finding the landlord like $100 per day. But finally that program was resolved. But the most dramatic influx in the last few years has been the Mexican community. And that brings us to the present today. Following the long tradition of previous immigrants to the borough of Norristown, the Hispanic community will continue strengthening the local community by creating business and bilingual services, filling lots of jobs that are not attractive to others, rehabbing buildings that have been an eyesore for many years, especially in the West End. Our concern for the future is the immigration status of our brothers from Mexico. What is going to happen to undocumented aliens? Housing. We have many unscrupulous landlords that are taking advantage of our people. As the community continues to grow and less housing will be available, what is going to happen? Diana Hodgson told you the schools are full of our children. How will the school continue functioning? Health, that's a concern. We have a lot of problems with employers who are hiring our people and then they refuse to pay them. Make them work for long hours and refuse to pay overtime, and many other offenses. I don't want to continue telling you because there are other people that are going to address some of these issues. But I want to tell you a little bit about Aclamo response to the future of our Hispanic community in the borough of Norristown. And this is by providing access to early prenatal care, by providing health insurance and primary care, by providing early childhood education. At this moment, in the Norristown Library, a group of my workers are with the families over there in a program that we have with the library. We are getting children prepared for school. We are teaching parents to adjust to the English-speaking school system, helping people to connect to jobs and housing, working together whenever it's possible with the school district, local hospital and clinic, police department, local employers, to name few. The Latino community is here to stay. We need to work together to stop the abuse and exploitation of our community. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Adamino. And now we're going to hear from Obed Ngueda. And I forgot to, I promised to give his 2 stores in town here a plug. He has one on the corner of Swede and Oak, and the other on West Marshall and Astor. And it is Lupita's, both of them, correct?
Right.
Okay.
Adelita's, right. Good morning, everyone. My name is Obed Nogueira. I serve on the Norristown Initiative Board and also on two businesses in Norristown, as Mr. Grimm stated. Being there at the store gives me the opportunity to see a lot of things firsthand. A lot of our customers come to us a lot of times asking for advice, and a lot of times just to help them translate on anything, really. Thanks. What we see a lot is, as Mr. Prado stated, that a lot of our people are undocumented, and it just they just have a lot of problems doing a lot of things that they would like, as opening bank accounts, even identifying themselves with any authority. We see a lot, like from policemen when they get stopped, as they don't have licenses. They can't get licenses, not because they don't want to. I've seen it firsthand. The policeman tells them, well, why don't you go to the Department of Motor Vehicles and just apply for one. It's not that easy. They're undocumented, we are undocumented, as in a way we don't have a visa, no passport, and they think we can just go over there, just apply for a license. But when they go over there, even when people are documented and they come to this country working for a company, they still give them problems, as in how long are you working here for? You have to have a working visa for like a year, a lot of things like that. So I don't know if it's a lot of a racial problem or it's just a government problem in a way. Also with a lot of housing, since a lot of them don't speak English, don't speak the language, a lot of people get taken advantage for. And it's really a shame. You know, I see that every day, unfortunately. So it's just, it wasn't fair. I didn't have anything prepared, but as a lot of people stated before me, it's a problem that we gotta solve, that we gotta find a solution for it today, because it's just, the Hispanic population is growing by the day, and I think we're here to stay. And if we don't solve it today, the problems are just going to keep getting bigger and bigger. Thank you.
Thank you, Obed. And now we will hear from Councilman Angel Ortiz of Philadelphia.
Buenos días. Let me begin by saying that since most of the Mexicans are from Puebla and Puerto Rico have a very good relationship, because the main song of Puebla, the song Puebla, was written by Rafael Hernandez, a native of Aguadilla in Puerto Rico. But the Mexicans today, we're talking about that, are facing a very different society than we did when we started coming in the 40s and 50s to this country. And it is a very different country, because today, after 9/11, we have a very anti-immigrant attitude developing across this nation, and specifically against Latinos and Mexicans. And we have that developing across different borders and different states. As I was coming up, I was reading that there's a case in the Court of Appeals up at the West Coast in which airport screeners, and they have legal papers and they are resident of the United States, Now there has, because of the new administration and Mr. John Ashford and John Cheney and all of these other individuals that are making the national policy, that if you're not a citizen, doesn't matter whether you're here legally or not, and if you're not a citizen, you are not going to be able to have a job as an airport screener. Because immediately the assumption is that if you're not a citizen and you're a foreigner, you must be a terrorist or may have some links to those individuals. And the attitude keeps on developing, because if you look at TV, and we have a very sick type of television developing in this country. If you look at this Mr. O'Reilly on Fox TV, he's an advocate of eliminating any rights for illegal aliens and other individuals that are in this country. He has a very big national voice. And if it was only him, it would not be that bad. But the issue is that he has persons who are saying the same thing within the administration of President Bush. And although President Bush has a nice smile, the policies that he advocates and the people that he surrounds himself advocates are very mean-spirited. So when we talk about immigrants in this day and age, we're talking about a very different situation and a very different atmosphere. When my parents came here, and we come from Puerto Rico, which is a colonialized country, and they were forced out of the island, we came to do factory work. Just as much as the people from Puebla come today to do the work that other individuals and other immigrants had left. Other work that the Italians that had come before us, the Irish that had come before us, are not doing. We came to pick the vegetables, to pick the fruits, to pick the pepitas and so on down the line, to clean the toilets, to clean the kitchens, to make the beds in different hotel rooms. We came to do that. A friend of mine was a movie director and Californian. Just made a very short movie. What would happen in California, for example, if all the Mexicans disappeared for one day? Well, Mrs. Johnson cannot get her martini made, the pool clean. There would be no vegetables on the table because nobody picked them. And meanwhile, we have a situation in which Mr. Ashford is asking the police departments of this country, and we passed a resolution in City Council telling our police department not to partake in that type of policy, to serve as INS agents. If you stop somebody, and if they look different, they look brown, they have a mustache, or they speak with an accent, ask them for their papers. And if they don't have their papers, then report them to INS and deport them. Let me tell you something. Now in the West Coast, and in the Patriot Act, and in the new act of the National Homeland Security Department that Mr. Bush wants. And Homeland Security sounds a little bit like Nazi Germany, the fatherland. They have a little thing there, and they're already implementing it in certain areas of border states, in which they are requiring people to carry citizenship papers. Now, you're an American, you have seen the movies. You have seen the movies, the European movies during the 40s and of the Soviet Union and so on, in which the individual will come to you and say, do you have your papers with you? Imagine every American being forced to carry the papers with them. And they're doing that, in essence, because they want to round up the immigrants. There's a fear in this country. So the terrorists are winning because there is a fear. And there's a fear of immigrants. Obed just gave a series of little descriptions of what happens. A friend of mine was really, this is a true story, she was stopped by a Philadelphia policeman, and she speaks with an accent, and he asked her, do you have a green card? And she pulled out her American Express. But it's a true story, and it is happening every day across the country. And all immigrants came, and they lived in crowded housing. And they lived in places where landlords did not maintain it. When I got to the Lower East Side of Manhattan, the bathroom was in the hallway, the bathtub was in the kitchen and served as a table for eating. And when my mother and my grandfather and my grandmother moved to an apartment with inside bathroom and bathtub in a separate room, we thought we were upper middle class. Every immigrant group has lived with many people in their homes, and they've been exploited by landlords. But America has always had the attitude that these were the blood that made America grow. In the 40s and 50s, even though Puerto Ricans faced discrimination, racism, which still exists in this country, which is the sickness of this society, and is still imperative across the state, as you see hate groups that abound in the state of Pennsylvania. We still have that. But now we have an attitude, because we never had an attitude of governmental anti-immigration policies and attitudes. And what we have today is a closing of the borders. We want to close the borders. And why do we want to close the borders? Because the majority and the demographics of the country are changing. And by the year 2025, not only going to be Norristown that is going to be mainly Latino, Mexican, Dominican, Cuban, Puerto Rican. Allentown today, 50% of the kids in the public school system in Allentown are Latino. In Reading, the same way. The demographics of Pennsylvania are changing. The languages that we speak are changing. It is Spanish that is being spoken. It is the music that is being heard. But what we have to deal with as a state, and hopefully with Ed Rendell in the governor's mansion, we may have a different perspective. But what we have to deal with it is the national attitude that is developing around the migration. This guy O'Reilly, every night he goes on a diatribe about putting the army in our borders, closing up the borders, sending these individuals back. If a woman gets sick and she's pregnant and she's undocumented and she is an illegal alien in this country and she goes to a hospital, don't give her treatment, send her back to her country. These are things that used to be said in the back room, quietly, because we didn't want to hear that type of racism, that type of angry, negative attitudes towards immigrants and other folks. But now it's being spoken on the TV channels every day of the week. So when the Mexican from Puebla gets here, he faces a new American. It is not the American of the Statue of Liberty who says, give me your poor, and so on down the line. It is not the American that our parents faced that said, welcome, even though there was racism, even though their doors would be shut in certain neighborhoods, even though you faced discrimination because of your language. It was still an America that gave you the opportunity to grow, to become someone, and to become part of the overall society. The challenge that we have in Norristown, in Allentown, in Pennsylvania, is to fight back against those attitudes. To say to the people from Puebla, welcome. To say to the officers, to say to the governor, to say to the state house, we will not become part. We will not become part of this anti-immigrant attitude. The challenge that we have as citizens, as Americans, is that we will not believe in the Patriot Act, that we will not assume those attitudes that everybody who comes here is a traitor, a terrorist, somebody who's coming in to do us harm. Because most 99% of the individuals that come here, they work, they take out Social Security, although they don't get the Social Security. They take out taxes, and they face all of the discrimination that goes with it, and they get none of the benefits. So it is them who are providing a service to America by coming here, by giving us a new blood, by giving us a new attitude, by giving us new energy. And it's them who are going to make this America the America that it should be, the America that we all dreamt about. And we have to remember that the America that we have today, we took it away from them around 100 years ago. Thank you.
Very moving. Okay, one little injection here, I guess probably, I don't know if this is a good time to say it or not, but guys, I'm a landlord. One other thing too, referencing to the driving and licenses and whatnot, I had a situation with an employee where we had to take that to a test because, believe it or not, the policy has been if you had a Mexican license, you were driving illegally here. So I challenged that for one of my employees, just happened to drive my car, so I kind of got involved. And it turns out that actually you're valid for 1 year, and we won the test case.
A lot of times they say that if you do have a Mexican driver's license, you are valid to drive, but you have to show a passport and that you are here on like a tourist visa or some kind of visa. You don't even have to have an American driver's license, but if you have a passport and a Mexican license with a visa, you can drive. Apparently, that's a big problem, right?
That part of the hearing didn't come up. It just went by the license itself.
Because, being at the store one time, Frank came in like running, can you come down the street, one of our customers had a car accident, and I talked to the policeman. He said, he asked me if I had a license. So I said, yes. He said, well, you drive the car, and he can't drive the car, and that's exactly what he told me. Said that Mexican license, it's no good to me.
Well, I guess the policy is not totally clear. And Angel, I see you laughing down there. We weren't going to talk about that. Okay, now filling in for Father Murphy today is Father Kennedy. And if he would come up to the podium.
morning. I've been around town, I guess, for about 10 years. I have responsibilities to a couple areas for Spanish-speaking for the Catholics, but in the last year I've been living in Norristown, and most of the work is here. Up to about 5 years ago, we had about 50 people in church on Sunday, and now we're up to about 450 with the Mass on Saturday as well. So we've certainly seen the expansion of the population. At that time, there's very little in the way of activities in church, but now we have Bible study, we have English classes, we have prayer group. CCD had to be cut off at 100 this year. 90% of those kids are Hispanic. That's religious instruction. The baptisms that I've had this year, there's been about 80 in the parish, and all about 5 of them have been Hispanic. And in talking to someone in the hospital at Montgomery, she had said a couple months ago that over 2 months, there are about 50 Hispanic children born at the hospital. So there's still a whole lot more out there that haven't found their way to our church, but it's certainly indicative of what's happening in the borough. I want to just share something about the different mindset that Hispanics have. The other day I was walking down the street and I wasn't dressed in my black, but someone pulls up in a car, jumps out, has a form in his hand and says, "Father, will you help me? I have to fill out this form." I said, "Well, when do you have to have it filled out?" And he says, "Now." So there in the back of the car, we were filling out this form for employment at a giant supermarket. So a lot of times people want things now, and they're used to just going when I guess the spirit hits them when the last moment. I was in Venezuela for 4 years, and one time someone came down to the church and said, "Father, we'd like to arrange for a mass for a funeral." I said, "Fine. When do you want to have it?" He said, "Now." The procession was coming down the mountain. So sometimes we get a little anxious when they're not there on time or their plan, but it's part of a big background they're working out of. 54% of the Hispanics are now in the suburbs. So that in a report that the Catholic Church made recently. So we think of them as being an inner city and urban thing, but now many people in the suburbs, and I guess we can attest to that. They teach us something about gentility too, and they always expect to be received, warmly. I had one person tell me last week that he was a little put out by an instructor that he had because I guess he had missed a class and they must have said something to him. And he said, "Father, we're not used to being spoken to that way, and especially in front of our peers. So sometimes if we're upset with someone or they're late or they didn't do the job the way we want it, to correct someone in front of other people is an insult. It's embarrassing, and we may find that we don't see that person any longer. But this particular person just kind of absorbed it, but we can see there's a high sensitivity there. And I think my own manners or things, maybe in general, can be improved upon because the first thing a Hispanic will say when they come to you is good morning or good afternoon. And if you start with anything else, say, "Oh, I got this work I want you to do," or "You have the donuts," it's "Good morning, Father, how are you?" And it really pressure you to greet them civilly. So I think I have learned and been educated by people of far less education than I have. Speaking of education, I was talking to a person from Norristown area high school. They said that they have about 150 Hispanics in their high school right now. I think they thought there should be more, and we know there's a high dropout among Hispanics. I think it's worse than any other minority. But yet, of those 150, they can't go to college because they don't have their Social Security. This teacher mentioned that this guy wanted to go in the Marines, and he said he couldn't go in the Marines. He was on a wrestling team. He had good marks, but they said come around when you get your documents straightened out. So I would say we can't have policemen who are Hispanic because they have to have their college education or have to have the documents corrected. There's a whole lot of people who are not able to go any further. But when they come here, most of the people that I meet have only a 6th grade education, so there's a lot of catching up to do educationally, and those who are willing to do it may not be able to go beyond high school if their parents brought them over when they were little children. And the driver's license, we've been through that. If you don't have the Social Security number, then we know don't bother trying, and you can't get your Social Security number. And this man who was applying for his job at the supermarket, when it said Social Security, he whipped out a card and looked at it. I figured, man, I don't think anybody ever played that card, because even the number grouping wasn't right on the card. On the other hand, times I've seen a card which looked better than my card, so there's a high difference in quality of the cards. But a person has those because he can't get the real one. It costs more money. I mean, Social Security cards don't cost anything, but if you get a false one, you have to pay for it. So why do that if you could get a real one? But the general population doesn't know that this is impossible for people who don't have the right documents. I find out that around town I see a lot of smiling people among the immigrants, among the Hispanic people that come. And I think that's an improvement to the neighborhood. As I walk around the neighborhood, I see a lot of people who are talking angrily, they're shouting up and down the block. But I see some of these recent immigrants, they're there with their little toddlers, they're pushing their laundry cart, they're hand in hand with the kids or with their spouse. They're smiling and talking, even guys going down the street there. They always seem to have smiles on their face now. I'm always impressed. Even to drive by in the car, look at her smile and talk to one another. I think there's a real attitude there that's going to improve our own relations among ourselves. I think I really see a happier, maybe more respectful and more gentle improving on the neighborhood as I greet the immigrants. I guess health is a concern of mine. If the people that serve our food and pick our food don't have health requirement, don't have health service, then we may have people who are sick serving us our food. That came to me a couple of years ago. I was in Reading at a restaurant. It was a good restaurant. It was after confirmation at a local Catholic church, and they wouldn't go to just a place that wasn't good. So in my salad, I found a Band-Aid, and I figured, well, I don't know anything about the person who this belonged to, and what kind of service they have. A person at the local hospital here said they had a worker in there with worms, maggots crawling out of his belly button because he thought he didn't have any right to any health, and he doesn't. But in emergency, you can go to the hospital. Many people don't know that, and Hispanics want to be able to do something. They want to pay, but they can't pay the exorbitant amount that comes in a bill. They like to have some kind of consideration or some possibility of getting a medical card of some kind, insurance. That's a big thing to work on. We've done well in addressing the bank account items, as I'm sure Julio will mention. But before the work was started on that, I went to a bank to see what were the possibilities, and they said, no, absolutely not. I said, can't they even rent a box to put the money so they have to keep it in their house? He says, no, because we don't know what that money, how that money came into possession, what it's doing. So you couldn't even put it there even though it wasn't earning interest. But after a worker was killed coming back from a laundromat there some time ago, I wrote to the police chief and the mayor and the paper and so forth, trying to say what could be done into the consulate, and a lot of it has been done, and I think we're very grateful for the community in responding to that. So I thank everyone here for your interest, and hope that we can all work together. I've seen a lot of cooperation from the police, from the Mexican consulate. They've been coming out almost monthly to the parish to be able to give people these identity cards so they'd be able to at least have something in their hand when they're applying for bank accounts and so forth. But I think a lot of people working together are really trying to be welcoming to our newly arrived immigrants, and I hope that if there's anything more that we can do at the church, that people will feel free to ask us, and that we might be able to lend a hand.
Thank you very much, Father. Now we're going to hear from Inspector Melendez, and something he may not mention to you in one of his points of notoriety is the highest ranking Hispanic officer of the Philadelphia Police Force.
Sí, italiano. Sí, Hank, yo soy italiano. My friend Hank here. Hank's been trying to get me to Norristown for a long, long time now, and he invited me to this meeting, and I had perhaps a misconception about the meeting at the forum, and I said, well, the only way I'm going to attend the meeting is if the chief invites me. And when I went to know the chief, Russell Bruno personally called me, invited me, called my commissioner and said, please have him come. So here I am. And I must admit I have a bit of a dilemma here, because I don't know much about the problems with the Mexicans here. The problems that I can share with you are the problems that we had in Philadelphia some time back with the Latino community, and how we survived those problems. But by the way, it's interesting. A lot of times, we go to places where they don't like people speaking Spanish. I remember one time we had a Puerto Rican that came to the district where I was the captain, and to report a stolen car. And his English was bad. And I remember the officer took care of him at the window said, this is America, go back home and come back and report the car stolen when you learn English. And well, he did not know that the captain, me, was behind him. And my first question to him was, do you know who the first bilingual in this country was? And didn't know, even though he's telling us that America's always spoken English in America. I said, well, no, first of all, America, about half of it came from the Mexicans to begin with, but we're not going to go there. But by the way, if you recall, they say that Columbus was Italian. And who sponsored his voyage? Spain. He was the first bilingual. I guarantee you, when he landed in Plymouth Rock, he was saying arriba, arriba, and all that other stuff. So they were not speaking Italian. But I don't want to tell war stories, but there are a few things that I have to tell you that we have done to progress, because we believe, in Philadelphia, we believe that you lead or you have to be led. Well, we don't want to be led, we want to lead. For example, in Philadelphia, the police has been a problem with the Latino community. And we're very, very fortunate that we want to lead. So the chairman of the Public Safety Committee City Council is Angel Ortiz. And by the way, it's not Angel, it's Angel Ortiz. And I know you cannot have him. I know he's very eloquent. Every place he goes to speak, everybody wants him to move. He's not moving. But in the academy, we had a problem. I had a rookie that came to me one time and he said to me, he says, I was a lieutenant at the time, so lieutenant, he says, at the academy we have a professor that says that when Latinos get sick, they don't go to the doctor, they go to a spiritista, spiritualist. And I thought he was putting me on. I couldn't believe this. I said, no, you don't mean that. He says, no, I have the class syllabus, I can show you. And sure enough, he did. It was there. I remember calling the commissioner, mentioning few things to Angel too about that. And the commissioner was shocked that this was going on. Police Academy is paying for this guy to teach this stuff. And commissioner called right away, said, that guy is not allowed to teach anymore. And then that course was not, but he was teaching Latino culture. And I had a problem. We had an African-American teaching African-American culture. We had a gay individual teaching sexual minorities. We had a priest talking about religious culture. And we had an Irish-American teaching Latino culture. I had a problem with that. And we took care of it. And I remember that the commissioner called a meeting with this individual, a doctor no less, and the commissioner said, he invited me to the meeting, said, you don't want me to go there. You don't want me to go there because I'm very upset about this. I said, no, you're going to come, and you come to the meeting and ask whatever you want to ask. And I asked him, I said, what makes you such an expert? Latino culture, that you're doing this. He says, well, I lived in Argentina for 2 years. My wife is Argentinian, as a matter of fact. He says, I got a degree in, got a lot of credits in Spanish literature. And then he says, and I lived in Norris Square, which is a very popular Latino neighborhood in Philadelphia. And I'm a friend of Angel Ortiz. And that qualified him to be an expert. Well, what I said to him was, well, I've had a driver's license for 25 years, and I own 3 cars, and I drive every day, but I'm not an automotive engineer. But that's not what you want to hear. But I will tell you a few things, though. Oh, by the way, before I forget, you people have to know this. Angel Ortiz, his daughter, is a movie star, believe it or not. She's going to be on TV Saturday, Angel?
Sunday.
Sunday. 7 p.m. Channel 6. She's going to marry Santa Claus.
She is. She sings Christmas. Mr. Saint Nick.
Right. But what I want to say, I understand this is going to be shown later on TV, and I hope that a lot of the Latino community get to watch this program. So the remarks that I'm going to make, I'm going to address the Latino community. And, you know, we have learned that we have to be twice as good. We have learned that we live in a glass house. We have learned in Philadelphia, we have learned that we're scrutinized very, very closly. And it's not just Latinos in Philadelphia, that all the minority communities, and we have learned that. And we have been very successful at learning that. And we have learned that if you don't lead, you're going to be led. And that is why in Philadelphia, we don't have the problems that you're encountering here. And we have been very, very, very successful. In Philadelphia, the city solicitor is a Puerto Rican. And by the way, the one before him was Mexican. The commissioner of DHS is a Puerto Rican. Okay? The one before her was African American. So we have, like I said, city council, chairman of the public safety committee. Public safety committee is very, very, very important. They actually control the police department. Some people just don't know that. I have to remind them every once in a while. And let me tell you, you have to get involved, because if you don't get involved, people are going to take advantage of you. We had an incident in Philadelphia. It was in 1995, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong. I was a captain of the district what they called the Badlands. And by the way, the news media gave it that name, not us, because the people that lived there called it home. But anyway, we had an incident. We had an auto accident where a young girl and a student and her grandfather were killed. Traffic was terrible. They built the school in the wrong location. I think you remember the location. And the community was demonstrating they wanted a traffic light there and the traffic pattern to be studied. And I remember my commissioner telling me, by the way, this is several commissioners ago, telling me, just go over there, give a lip service, nothing's going to happen. So Angel showed up with his entourage. He always has an entourage with him. And I said, Angel, listen, man, we're not going to give you the school crossing guards, we're not going to give you the traffic light, and we're not going to do this. Angel said, just watch. And I had to admit, he made a believer out of me, because a month later, we had the traffic light. We didn't have one school crossing guard, we had 2. And the traffic pattern has never been the same. Has never been the same. So together, if you get aggressive, if you get involved, you can do that. By the way, we have a problem recruiting Latinos in the police department in Philadelphia. When I came on board 34 years ago, just the other day, there were 20 of us. 20 of us. But they did a lot to change the situation. They did a lot to the situation. And now, we have a problem. You going to tell me to shut up? And now what we do is, you know, I didn't want my kids to be cops. I wanted to do better. Heck, both my daughters have master's degrees. I wanted to do a whole lot better. So we have parents with minorities that don't want their kids being cops. So I told my people, I was in charge of the recruiting unit at one time. I said, my people, we are no longer recruiting minority police officers. And they were shocked. I said, when you go to the universities to recruit, when you go to the community groups to recruit, we're no longer recruiting minority police officers. I remember the sergeant asking, well, Inspector, what the hell are we recruiting then? You know, that's what we're supposed to be doing. They said, well, for now we're recruiting captains and police commissioners. So we went to them, we told them, we don't want you to be a police officer, we want you someday to lead this police department. To lead the police department. We use a little psychology. Ladies and gentlemen, we have 400 plus Hispanic police officers in Philadelphia. I think it's marvelous. I think it's great. I think it's great. We have problems. We have learned to deal with them. I had a list of things here, but you don't want to hear war stories. You probably want some solutions to your problems, and I'm hoping that we can perhaps share some of our experience, tell you how we did certain things, and perhaps we can help you. So I'm not going to tell you war stories. I'll be more than willing to answer your questions later on. Gracias.
Thank you, Inspector. Now that you've told us how many Hispanic officers you have in Philadelphia, how about loaning us a dozen?
Sorry, what was that?
I said, now that we know how many Hispanic officers you have in Philadelphia, how about loaning us a dozen?
We won't do that, but we'll help you recruit them.
Yeah, we talked about it.
Any which way it can happen. Okay, now we're going to move on to Julio Alvarez, who is from the First Union Bank, and he's going to talk to us about banking for the Hispanics. I hope.
Maybe a little more.
Maybe a little more.
everyone. My name is Julio Alvarez. I work for First Union Bank, and I was asked by Hank Cisco to come over and say a few words about what First Union has to say about opening accounts and providing financial services for our Latino community, particularly the Mexican community, which is, as you can are well aware, has grown here in Norristown. Let me give you a little bit about my background. I was born in Peru, South America, so I'm not American. Well, I'm a citizen now, so I am American. I am American. And I came over when I was 8.5. Mom brought me over. Thank God we were able to come here legally. Okay, so we came here. I studied in Philadelphia. My education, went to college. I have a university. Wonderful. I've been blessed with a lot of things. I'm a member of the U.S. Armed Forces, U.S. Navy, Reserves. I've been with the Reserves for 23 years. I served in the Persian Gulf in '91. I'm not speaking Spanish to you now, but I am fluent in Spanish. It was something that was brought from from Peru. I kept my language, and I would say to anybody from whatever culture you are, whether you're Latino, whether you're from the Middle East, from Europe, please keep your language, maintain that. That's very important. That's very special. Your culture, from wherever you're at, if you're able to maintain it. So I'm able to say that I can speak both languages fluently. As a matter of fact, when I was in high school, my mother said to me, she said, what foreign language are you going to take? She says, well, Spanish seems easy. Why don't I take that? She said, no, take another language. So, being a good student, I took German. So 4 years of German, and I did very well. I got A's throughout all my German. So I speak a third language, and I welcome, an opportunity to learn more languages if that's comes in my way. Anyway, I wanted to say that with all my background, I have a lot of respect for the folks that are coming over from Latin America, from Mexico particularly. They have a lot of push. It's not easy being in America. I'm sure Mexico has a lot of beauty that America doesn't have. Anyway, the reason why we're here is basically economic reasons. We want to better ourselves, and economically, and also in other ways, culturally, I'm sure. But being part of the military, I respect Mr. Ortiz's views on being targeted possibly because of what happened September 11th of last year. But I also, being part of the military, I think we also need to secure ourselves as Americans. It's our right, it's our responsibility to maintain that. And if it be, I'm sure the people from New York, they would have been more thankful that somebody had been a little more scrutinizing on these terrorists that came on the plane. And our loss that we had, major loss last year. But so be it. I feel that we're moving in the right direction. I don't know how many of the Mexican Americans that are here, how many are allowed to come to America legally? Is there a certain number? I know that America allows a certain number. Do you know about it?
Yeah, I think it's like it depends on the visa that they can obtain, but it's probably 250,000.
250,000
each year.
Normally, it's 100,000 for each the country. Correct? Am I correct in that? Normally.
Yeah.
Depending on the situation, of course, political turmoil and whatnot.
Yeah. Mexico is the country that receives more visas than anyone else.
Okay. So.
Yeah, but still, I mean, the migration is much higher.
Right. Okay. So America is opening our borders to our Mexican American colleagues, much more so than any other foreign country. So, I think maybe we should work with the Mexican government, and we are. America is working with the government. I guess maybe I'm speaking a little bit on my side, my political views, but I'm glad that again, Hank, you've invited me to this forum, and I hope to be a part of it in the future.
But let's go back to a little bit about banking, okay? First Union has recently adopted the ability to allow any foreign national, particularly Mexicans in this situation, that has the matrícula consular, which is the consulary document. And Mr. Prado was showing me the other certain security features, which I wasn't aware of actually. So I'm glad we're able to verify the card and that it is proper. We require 2 forms of ID with the bank, and whether you're American or whether you're foreigner. So one of them will be a matrícula consular or a passport, and the other can be a form of ID from their country, such as a driver's license or a electoral card, because those are pretty valid. So as far as loans that we offer for First Union, we are offering loans, but there's a lot of Mexican Americans or Mexicans are coming over and they're asking for loans, and let's say to buy a property or a home or maybe even start a business. And I'm glad that's happening, because I think it's establishing here. They're paying taxes, so they might as well benefit from whatever the community has to offer. But we do require a permanent resident status in order to have that happen, and that's where your legality helps these folks establish themselves here in America or in the community. I see a lot of questions. I'm a financial specialist, let me say that, at the bank for First Union. My job is basically to open accounts and teach the customers, whether they're American or otherwise, about what opportunities First Union has to offer, bank accounts, loans, and whatnot. There's a lot of questions about certificates of deposit. People are saving for the long run. They're asking about investments. That's great. I think you're right. There is the community is going to be growing within the next 15, 20, 30 years. And that's a great opportunity for this Norristown community to grow and help our the future Mexican American residents, citizens, to establish themselves here. So basically, that's what I have to say. If there's any further questions, I'd be more than happy to ask them or to answer them. We do have brochures now in Spanish as well as English. We have voice response on the phone. Anybody calls, they can answer. They have a choice, English or Spanish. But I also believe that as a resident of Norristown, Montgomery County, and as an employee of this county working for the bank, I also believe that our Latin American friends should learn English. It's important. It's our language. People from South America, the Argentinians, when the Europeans, the Germans, Italians went over to Argentina, they didn't say, we want to speak German here, we want to speak Italian. No, the language is Spanish. You have to maintain the language. Respect, it's respect. It's consideration. I'm not saying you shouldn't keep your language, your culture. That's beautiful, keep it. But have respect for the people that are around you, the majority. That's all I have to say, folks. Thank you.
Very, very glad to hear that about the bank with the situation, opening it up. And hopefully the media will be able to pass that information on to the rest of our community. I know for me that move is long overdue. I have lost many, many good tenants due to what I would just call the street thugs that have targeted them. And they've decided that this was just not an area they wanted to be in because they would be robbed. So hopefully if they are taken off the target list, and there is a place for them to put their money rather than their pockets or in their bed springs, this will change some things here in Norristown. Okay, now to our last speaker, and then we'll be taking a short break. Miguel Donez of the Conexiones.
Good morning. Still morning. most of you probably know me already, or heard of me somehow. I'm from Puerto Rico, and I feel when people ask me, where are you from? I said, well, I'm from America. Because America is made of everybody. But Conexiones, I am here representing Conexiones, or connecting. And why Conexiones? Everybody spoke about the needs of the community, the Hispanic community. But I think there's a need in general, the community. And the first need is to help the community connect, to stop having pockets of people separate. I think we can all cohabitate together and live happily ever after. But Conexiones came about out of the concern of a few friends of mine. We were sitting one day and talking about the needs of the community. People came every Sunday at St. Patrick's and asked questions about health, financial, legal, immigration, education, cultural, and I used to say, I don't know. So we decided to form an organization to bring all this information together. And people say, well, why another organization? We have plenty of social service organizations in town. I disagree with that. I think that there are a lot of social service organizations in town, and they're doing a great job, but there's a lot of need in town. And we can all work together to help the people take care of that need. But we heard about all the problems that people have. And I had the same kind of problems when I came to the U.S. I came to Massachusetts in 1969, and I didn't know English. And I was living in a run-down apartment with my sister. And I saw things that I've never saw before in my life. I come from the countryside, the mountains, as you might call it. And it was a place where it was peaceful, free, no worries. Get up when you want to. You work in a farm. You take care of your animals, horses, cows, goats, you name it. We had it. And it was freedom for me. And I came to live in Massachusetts where it was like a whole different world. So I have to adjust. And I have to thank all the people that helped me out to get where I am today. There was a lot of people that helped along the way. And I've never felt that there was somebody that was going to hold me back. But mainly Conexiones came about because when people came to me and said to me, I am a lawyer in Mexico or in South America or somewhere, and where do you work? I am cleaning floors at a store. Or I'm a nurse. What are you doing? I'm serving food in a restaurant. Or I'm an accountant. What are you doing? I'm packing shelves in the store. And these are people that are working around us, that have all this education and can do nothing with it. So Conexiones decided to put all this together and set up what is called an information bank. Something that we have all the information put together. Because I noticed that most of the social service agencies operate within the hours of 9 o'clock and 5 o'clock during the day. Where is everybody at that time? Working. So they come from work 6, 7 o'clock at night and they go to one of the services. They're not there. So Conexiones decided to set up a 24-hour service. Okay? We have today as a translating service with the mayor, the police department, that operates 24 hours a day. We have telephone set up with the mayor. Whenever there is a problem with a Hispanic-speaking person that doesn't understand English and call us, we go and translate for them. We put together an information bank about health, sports, finances, immigration, cultural, education, so that whenever somebody needs this kind of information, we say, okay, you can go here or there or there. You can go to Aclamo, you can go to CADCOM. They have these services for you. So our purpose is to bring the service to the people where they're at, not have the people come to us. whether it be at nighttime or in the morning or in the weekend. They can call Conexiones and they can be served. I think that here in America, as we call it, there's a lot of good people in general. I think the bad people are very few. I think people have a good heart. Everybody wants to help. But we need to find those people. We need to find out what they are. And I think if we work together as organizations together, instead of saying, I am this and I am that, we say, we are America. Work together to bring the service to the people, find the people where they are, right? I think that we can avoid having a social problem. With the influx of Hispanics here in Norristown, there is a possibility of that. If we continue to work hard at bringing this information to the people, as Father Kennedy said, there was a person that came to the hospital with worms coming out of the belly button. They're afraid to go to the doctor. I mean, there was a lady in the hospital the other day that had kidney failures. She's working, but she had no insurance. She was almost poisoned because her kidneys wasn't working. But she had no money and no insurance to go to the hospital. So to bring out the information to the people is important. There's a lot out there that people need to get at. We have to bring it to them. We have to put our forces together and bring it to the people. We have to support our politicians. We have to support our police department. We have to stop pointing fingers at people and separate the bad from the good. And believe me, when you put it on a scale, the goods will win. The bads are very few. I've never been sore in my life about anything because I learned to take the positive out of the negative. And when there's somebody or something that has a negative, I put it aside. And I go with the positive. And there's a lot of positive in this room. There's a lot of positive everywhere. And as people of Norristown, we can work together to help the newcomers. At St. Patrick's, every Sunday we ask for newcomers. And we have 5, 6, 7 people raise their hands from Puebla. Mainly from Puebla. But believe it or not, Mexico is split into 3 sections. The south, the middle, and the north. Most of the people are coming from the southern part. But there's very few from the northern part. And there's a reason for that. But we don't care what the reason is. I think we should figure out how to help them out, how to make them part of our community. And not just the Mexicans, but also the people from South and Central America who are here, who want to work. And I think as Councilman Ortiz said, if you take out all these people and take them away all at once, where will we be? Who will do our things? Who will stock our shelves in the grocery store? Let's work together to serve the community in general. Let's support each other and make a community that is a model community. Conexiones will continue to work, although we have no budget, 24 hours a day to bring the service to the community. People ask me, why do you do it? What is there for you? I said, should there be anything for me? I came here 33 years ago, and I'm here today. There's a lot for me, and it's not money. It's personal satisfaction, that if I help one person, I help somebody. Thank you.
Miguel, I do hope that you give your card to Steve O'Toole over there from the Times Herald so you can get the message out for you a little further about your service. Okay, now we're going to take a short break, and we'll be back here hopefully between 5-10 minutes, no longer. So, make it a good one. Doris, Norman, thank you. And if we have time, we'll go to 2. And when I say one question, it's one question. Okay, everyone, if start with your hands.
First, for a
And if you could, please identify yourself, because you are on TV here, and
my name's Bill Wendell.
and in fact, it would help to stand up there.
Okay. Questions for Yvette. What obstacles the Hispanics, or and particularly Mexicans, face, and what can the borough do to help them in opening up businesses?
Actually, no obstacles, just a lot of requirements. A lot of requirements that oftentimes become obstacles, as in a way. The borough, it's very strict in that way, which is good. Plumbing, they want to do a check of the plumbing, a check of the electric, exit signs. If there are not enough exit signs with lights, I mean, it's just a lot of requirements. And then just do the proper paperwork. But a lot of obstacles, not really. Yeah, just extreme
Is the
requirements.
language barrier the main understanding what the requirements are?
If you don't speak English, you can't, and you can't communicate with a lot of the inspectors. If you take it, they might be rude sometimes. But as long as you comply with them, yeah, they're nice about it. So, yeah, not a lot of obstacles, just a lot of requirements.
Doris, just go ahead, stand up.
Well, first of all, my name is Doris Smith Starks, and I'm a Town Watch Block Captain Coordinator on the East End, and I'm with the Weed and Seed program. And my question is, what are we to do to try to get a closer communication with our neighbors as a whole in the community? You see, our neighbors, we have a tendency of just staying in like little bunches, as somebody said on the panel. We just stay like in little bunches. But we need to come out, and we have to come together. So what would be what can we do to show ourselves as friendly, as people living on the blocks together?
Can I answer that?
Good.
That's very easy. We have to treat everybody equal. We have to say, good morning, hello, how are you? Very simple. Approach the people and try and say, how can I help? Instead of putting barriers between people, just because they're different or because they don't speak the language. I myself never found any barriers in here because I didn't look at barriers. But in general, people look at things as barriers. So that we have to stop doing that. We have to stop saying that because this person didn't talk to me, he didn't like me. Not true. People have different attitudes. People get up in the morning with problems. People, sometimes I don't see people and they're in front of me. That doesn't mean I don't like them. It's just that I have all the worries. I have blinders on. So that we need to start communicating to people, no matter what situation they're in. If you don't have food in your cupboard to feed your children, you have a problem. Bigger problem than saying hello to you. So that you have to sense that need. You have to sense that there's a need somewhere that you need to help with. And stop worrying about how this person is going to react towards you rather than how you're going to react towards them. That would be a fantastic way to get the community involved with each other, regardless of the language barriers, their color, their religious background. It doesn't matter. Everybody is equal. We have to stop doing that. We have to treat everybody as if everybody has a problem that we need to help. That I have to stop taking the defensive as soon as somebody says something to me I don't like because they have a problem. That's one way of bringing people together. Okay, and I think that if you do that, you have the best friends you can ever have.
Well, I have been doing that as a coordinator on the East End. I have been doing that in the community of the East End by going about buying trash cans, trash bags, a lot of supplies and things, and going on various blocks for the beautifying of the community. So I have started a, good relationship with a lot of my brothers and sisters, Spanish brothers and sisters.
Good, so make that a
So
contagious
it
disease.
is a continuing thing, and I've been taking money out of my pocket as well.
That's
as
great.
doing it.
So make that a contagious disease. Pass it on to somebody else.
Okay.
Thank you, Doris.
You're welcome.
Anna would like to also answer your question.
Just from the school perspective, all of our children, the neighbors of Norristown, go to the schools. And by having them together, they are learning how to deal with each other. We are different people in many ways, but we are more alike than different. And by accepting our differences, we are all friends, basically. And yes, by being courteous and being nice to each other, we manage that. But in the schools in particular, these children are studying, living with every other race, every other person in the neighborhood together, and they like each other. They play with each other. The parents sometimes are the ones that are a little, I don't want to say racist, but it's like if a Hispanic child said something, they call, oh, they're Hispanics, whatever. But we are working on that. It's not that he's Hispanic or he's black, or is because that person doesn't know how to behave. But we are working on that.
Because I can understand what you're saying, because as being an African American, we go through the same situation, so I can put myself in your place, right?
Exactly.
Okay.
Thank you, Doris.
You're welcome.
Sir.
My name is Larry Fiebert. I'm Associate Executive Director of Family Service of Montgomery County, a social service agency that's been in the county for over 100 years, and we have 10 or 12 programs. The question I have for anyone on the panel, or perhaps several, is my agency would like to become more responsive to the Hispanic community. And in addition to hiring staff and doing some outreach, I see it that we need to have some leadership at management level, but also on our board from the Hispanic community. And so what advice or suggestions would you have if we're wanting to reach out and have Latino on our board of directors?
Just ask this guy here.
He's ours, can't have him.
Just go out and ask people. And, there are a lot of folks who are willing to serve. The agencies, usually what happens, and what has happened throughout our history, is that agencies and other individuals and companies say, well, we can't find individuals that to get involved. I get it in Philadelphia. Every time I talk to the district attorney and I ask her, I say, why don't you have any Latino lawyers in the district attorney's office? In 8 years, they have not gone above 7. And they give me the same thing, and it's the attitude. It comes from her. If she wanted 20, she would get 20. She just doesn't make the effort to do that. The key situation, you want people on your board. There are organizations, there are conexiones, there are a ream of individual business people that are available. All you got to do is go to them and say, would you like to serve on the board? They're not going to come to you. You got to go out to them.
Yes. Please do.
Hi everyone. I'm Maria Espinosa from El Sol Azteca. I started my office at the beginning of this year. I offer notary services, translating services to the community. So I'm at the heart of the Hispanic community. And I get all kinds of problems from people coming to me, needing help. Too many to go over right now. We will spend the whole day here. But one of the things that I would like to share with you, one of the stories I would like to share with you, has to do with driver licenses. and going a little bit farther than Mr. Noguera. I had a case about 2 weeks ago. This man from Mexico came to me and asked me for help. He's legal. He's 100% legal. He has a passport. He has a good social security card. He has his alien registration card. He's completely legal. He went to PennDOT to apply for a driver's license, and he was told that there's somebody with the same name who was born the same day he was, who had a driver's license from the state of Arizona, and perhaps had some delinquencies, maybe unpaid tickets, or for some reason they could not give him a driver's license because of that. So they gave him a letter explaining the situation. So he came to me and we called the Department of Transportation in Arizona. And after getting the runaround for about half an hour, I did get to talk to somebody and explained the situation to them and gave them all the information they asked for. And they said, you're right, this man has nothing to do with this person in Arizona, and I will issue you a letter explaining that. So I asked the person to fax that letter to me, to my office, so that I could help this man immediately. And they faxed the letter to me. So this man went to PennDOT in Norristown the next day, and they still will not give him a license because they now say that the Department of Transportation in Arizona has to fax or mail directly to PennDOT. So we're back to square one. I have to call Arizona again and ask them to fax it directly to PennDOT. Now, I came to this country 36 years ago. It took me about 10 years to decide that I was going to make this my home, and I became a U.S. citizen. I always refused to feel discriminated from day one. But in my opinion, today, if that's not discrimination, I don't know what it is. And this man is unable to get a driver's license even when he is fully documented. So if he cannot get a driver's license, nobody can. Now, PennDOT issued new regulations in April of this year, and they have made it impossible for anybody, even the people that are here on a temporary visa, who come and work for the landscapers from March through December. They have a visa, but their visa only has 9 or 10 months. So PennDOT will not give them a driver's license because they don't have 12 months or more on their visa. And yet these men are being required by their employers to drive the landscaping trucks. So what are they supposed to do? And I think this is where they need help. They really, really need help. When Mr. Rendell came to Philadelphia, I approached him and I briefly discussed the problem with him. And I have to follow up with him. But I'm sure there's a lot somebody can do to relax the rules a little bit and make it possible for these people to get a driver's license. They don't want to be driving illegally. They don't want to be fined to death. And right now, they are being fined to death by the police department and PennDOT because they're driving without a license.
If I can go a little farther on that note, I think if they were able to get a license, as Ms. Espinosa said, they're getting fined every day for this because they don't have a license. They have nothing to lose. They pay that fine and they go back to driving again. If they did have a license and they go through a red light, then it's points on their license. And since they do have a license now, they don't want to lose their license. I think right now that they don't have anything, they have nothing to lose. They just pay the fine, drive again. Get stopped again, pay the fine and drive again. Yeah, so I mean, it's an ongoing process. Then if they did have a license, they would have something to protect, to not want to lose the license.
Let me tell you, it's what I was speaking about before. The issue is that we have right now a situation in this country, and this is feeding into that. And you talk about Norristown becoming Mexican, but it is undocumented citizens. This country, the city, Philadelphia, will not function, will not feel the power of the Mexican community until those individuals are able to exercise their right to vote. And unless they become citizens and allowed to be able to become citizens and put the process in place for them to become citizens, then most of the majority of the individuals today that live in Norristown and live across the state of Pennsylvania who are Mexican and undocumented will not become citizens, and will be forced by increasing pressures to drive illegally, to do other stuff that is not necessary, because we are not putting together the processes, the laws, and to make it feasible for them to enter into our society. And the way it's going, unless those of us who are citizens begin to speak out, to say to the forces that are the politicians, the elected officials, the congresspeople, the santorums of this world, that this is a country that was built on illegal immigrants. You know, like Jose dijo ahorita. The individuals and that have come, the Irish, the Italians, and so on, they all came here at one point or another as undocumented individuals. The thing is that the country was allowing them to become part of it. Now we're making it very difficult for those individuals who come here. There are 13 million undocumented individuals, and there have been legislation in the Senate and the House to be able to make most of those individuals residents, to make them legal, so that they could pay taxes, so that they could get private health insurance, so that they could begin to participate fully and not be exploited as they are, because the 13 million, they're not 13 million criminals. There are 13 million individuals who are working and getting exploited. And they're getting exploited as the process. There is no reason why, if you have the same name, and you're Latino, and somebody in California has the same name and you were born on the same date, that an individual, a bureaucrat in PennDOT says to you, you can't do it because somebody in Arizona has your name. I know at least 5 Angel Luis Ortiz Rivera. And so the issue is one of fairness. The issue is one of whether we are going to be the society that we used to be, and not the society that Ashcroft and these other individuals want us to be. Because if we keep on going down this path, then those individuals who drove that plane into the Twin Towers have won. They have won. Unless we change and go back and protect our freedoms, and not let those freedoms, because that's what we're fighting about. We're fighting about this staying with the identity that it has, a nation of immigrants. Not a nation of Europeans, a nation of immigrants from across the world. And that's a perfect example of impediments, obstructions, and now they're making it legal. They're making it legal because it's become part of, and we don't pay attention to these things. But in the Congress of the United States, a whole series of laws are being passed that attack the freedoms, not of the Mexicans, attack the freedoms of the Americans in this country. The freedoms of privacy, the freedom to travel, the freedom to be who you are in your own home, in your streets, and so on. and we're not paying attention to it.
One more thing I would like to mention is that I am making it one of my goals to make sure to help anybody and everybody who has been here as a legal resident long enough to qualify for citizenship, so that they will become citizens in preparation for the next presidential election, so that we can voice our vote to the that would be willing to help us. And also, I find it very funny, as well as most of my Latin American brothers and sisters, that we're called aliens, when in fact, if we look at our ancestry, our Indian ancestry, we were here long before Hernán Cortés and many of the other European conquerors came to conquer our land.